Now, as we've just seen, the Olympic torch is on its way around the region, but one road it won't be carried along is this one.
Yes, Spaghetti Junction. Beautiful thing, isn't it? So no matter where you live in the Midlands, there's a very good chance you've driven along it at some point.
Yes, and today it turned 40 years old. Our correspondent Andy Bevan is high above all that concrete. And Andy, I have to say, a bit quiet tonight on the M6.
Well, it is actually, Sam, but you know, it is these days an awful lot busier than it was 40 years ago. It was originally designed to carry 75,000 vehicles a day. It generally now carries 3 times that, and yet it's still doing exactly what it was supposed to do back in 1972. Now, the original plan back then was to link the existing sections of the M1, the M5 and the M6 and provide a major route in and out of Birmingham. Gravelly Hill, just north of the city centre, was chosen as the site, and the M6 and A38M, or Aston Expressway, were the mainstays of the new junction. But existing local roads also had to be incorporated, resulting in 18 routes spread over 30 acres. Now, a Birmingham newspaper journalist likened the junction to a plate of spaghetti, and the name was born. The Midland Links was the biggest road-building project of its time, trumpeted by the then Ministry of Transport in this public information film.
But somehow, sometime, the Midland Gap had to be linked.
16 construction contracts totalling £90 million were drawn up, with the biggest prize, worth £9 million alone, the M6 Junction 6, Spaghetti Junction. Work began in 1968 and involved elevating 13.5 miles of highway over 2 railway lines, 3 canals and 2 rivers. Roy Foote was the chief engineer for Spaghetti Junction. Now in his 80s, the memories of his most famous undertaking remain strong. We reunited him with the original plans for the project, unearthed from the archives of his old firm.
You had to get all the materials in there, all the steel beams, everything else had to come in there. So you had to think, how am I going to do this with all the traffic that's there anyway? And somehow or other, you know, it was achieved and it was done. And it was done within the contract time.
I declare this roadway open!
Roy Foote watched on opening day as the first vehicles drove onto the tarmac just after 4:30 in the afternoon. It was, and still is, a proud achievement.
Oh yes, I don't think anybody really who worked on it could be anything other than pleased, let's say, that it's still functioning.
And it may be 40 today, but this particular spaghetti has a sell-by date of 120 years. A legacy then for Roy Foote to leave motorists nationwide, although his own children have some personal plans regarding that.
When I pop my clogs and I'm cremated, the boys drive along Spaghetti Junction and empty the ashes out of the window. I don't know whether that's allowed.
Probably not allowed, I would guess. Of course, there have always been rumours that those who crossed Birmingham's gangland big boys of the 1960s ended up in some of the 559 concrete pillars that hold up Spaghetti Junction. Now, the Highways Agency tell me, of course, there's absolutely no truth in that whatsoever. Nevertheless, Spaghetti Junction has scared the life out of motorists up and down the land for 40 years. And we showed some of them this photograph to test their reaction.
It looks quite nice like that from a distance, aerial view, but not to drive on.
If you don't know where you're going, you know, you're just going to get so easily lost. And once you're past it, that's it. You're never going to get to come back.
My early memories of the Spaghetti Junction are travelling down from Rotherham to Devon and having to navigate our way through it, which wasn't the least stressful experience I think my dad ever had as a motorist, but I do remember it.
Now, it costs £7 million a year to maintain Spaghetti Junction, and because it's split over 5 levels, that makes it pretty tricky to repair. Now, quite often you can see some of the concrete struts over there encased in plastic, and that's because the Highways Agency are repairing them all the year round. The salt from winter gritting eats into the concrete, and decaying sections are cut away using a super high pressure water jet. They're then cleaned up with a pneumatic hammer and reconcreted back into their original condition.
We have between 80 and 100 people who are working here, keeping this interchange open throughout the year. Now, the traffic which travels over the top would never know that because they work beneath the surface, so there are no cones up there for this work, and hopefully the work that they'll do will keep this structures here open for another 40+ years.
Now, in the early days, Spaghetti Junction was accused of spreading noise and fumes across the whole of North Birmingham. Unleaded petrol these days, of course, has put an end to a lot of that. But there are still people who absolutely hate this place. And then there are those who absolutely love it.
Life in the fast lane, moving at the speed of life and I can't slow down.
My name's Steve Rounds, I'm a police constable with the Central Motorway Police Group, and I police the Greater Midlands Motorway Network and of course Spaghetti Junction. If you actually have a look at it from an aerial shot, it doesn't appear as complicated as it does when you drive through it. It's just a glorified crossroads really, so that people can get access to the M6.
Only got a gallon in the gas tank, but I'm almost at the finish line, so I can't stop now.
It's all busy all the time. If you came up here 3 o'clock in the morning, there's traffic on it 24/7. In actual fact, we have some of our more serious accidents when the traffic's lighter, because the speed of the traffic is higher and therefore the damage and injuries are greater.
I don't really know where I'm headed, 'cause I'm enjoying the ride.
I remember my dad going on it when it was first open and vowing never to go on it again because it got lost. You can't get lost on it, but I suppose you can get lost because of it. You can go in the wrong lane and then it funnels you into a piece of motorway that you don't want to go onto.
Life in the fast lane, to the metal. Life in the fast lane, to the metal.
But I think everybody now that uses the M6 knows it quite well. People do. Hold it with a lot of affection. It's one of those landmarks if you're travelling up and down the country that you've reached. You can say, oh, we're at Spaghetti Junction, now we're going to be an hour or whatever on your journey. And it's recognition that you've reached the middle of the country, you're in Birmingham.
Life in the fast lane, to the metal.
So there you go, happy birthday Spaghetti Junction. If you want to know more about this motorway masterpiece or monstrosity, depending on your point of view, we've got 40 facts for 40 years on our website. Just go to itv.com/central.
Andy, don't get lost on your way home. Thank you very much.
I should be there. I love a fact, me. Brilliant. Straight to the website. Now, the national and international